4 Democrats going down to El Salvador because they think that this is the latest and greatest, new thing to do, I guess. Traveling to El Salvador on taxpayer dimes. Like, let's not kid ourselves. You know who's paying for that? You, me, federal taxpayer dollars. We'll see if Comer can stop it, but they're all traveling down there and they're putting it through on the expense account. So they're like, yeah, we went down there. This is Representative Garcia, no relation, of course, to the Garcia that's in incarceration there, not in the actual scary prison, but in another prison there in El Salvador. They moved him right away. Anyway, let's see what they have to say. Talking to CNN, you got the California governor who's going, oh no. Like, this is just bad for the Democrat Party. Yeah, you bet it is.
Congressman Garcia, what have you been able to learn about Abrego Garcia as far as his whereabouts and his well-being, for that matter?
Right. Well, first, we obviously went there to ensure that he continues to be safe, that he continues to get access to counsel. We know that now that through the courts, at least the El Salvadorian government says that he is alive still. We hadn't heard that since Senator Van Hollen's visit. But this continues to be a very, very serious issue for him, his family, and the country. This case represents a Trump defying a 9-0 decision of the Supreme Court. But we also advocated directly to the U.S. ambassador there on the ground. It's clear from our meetings with him and others that the U.S. Embassy has received no direction to begin any sort of facilitation as directed by the Supreme Court, which is incredibly concerning. And at the same time, we, of course, met with Abrego Garcia's family and, most importantly, human rights activists and advocates that are on the ground advocating in El Salvador, not just for Kilmer Garcia's release, but also to ensure that due process is in place for other folks that are down there. We advocated, for example, for Andrea Romero, who's a young Venezuelan asylum seeker that had been granted asylum process, a young gay man who is now imprisoned with no access, and we have no idea his condition. And so the visit was incredibly important, eye-opening, and we'll continue to push and keep the pressure on.
And we'll keep the pressure on. And boy, am I happy I heard that. Sorry, guys. I thought it was going to be a little bit more exciting. But, you see the 4 of them like lumps on a log saying, okay, we went down there, here we're doing the right thing. One of them from Washington, I think, put out a little TikTok video. I won't bore you with it. But the point is they're out there trying to defend this guy who's alleged to be part of MS-13. And I got to say, it's not really a good look, right? It's not a good look, especially when you consider who's paying for it. Here's the answer. Thank you very much.
Who did pay for this trip?
This was an officially cleared, congressional trip, cleared on a bipartisan basis. Yes, like every other trip.
Yeah, like every other trip we go on. Taxpayer dollars are paying for it. Not if Comer has anything to do with it. He's like, no. You were requesting money for this thing. I want you to know that I am not going to approve it because this is not the right thing to do. And then he goes on to say, you're down there seeing these alleged gang members, and that's really not a great look. Because what about the US of A? What about the people that are here? Why didn't you do anything during all those years? You had every opportunity to do something. Let's be very clear. There was no giant border bill. Donald Trump didn't gain money to go after the border. And then, but yet you have a 96% decline in the number of border crossings. What's that about? It's called enforcement, guys, all right? It's not that hard. Gavin Newsom knows this is a bad look. This is not a winning issue for Democrats. All the polling shows this. This is why Donald Trump was elected, and yet they're doubling down on this stuff. I don't think it's going to work, and nor does Gavin.
This is the distraction of the day. The art of distraction. But it's a tough case because people are they defending MS-13? Are they defending, someone who's out of sight, out of mind in El Salvador? It's exactly the debate they want because they don't want this debate on the terrorists. They don't want to be accountable to the markets today. They want to have this conversation. Don't get distracted by distractions.
Okay. We won't. We're going to get back to the markets, which are doing great today, by the way. Honestly, it is not a good look. Meanwhile, you've got Van Hollen, who can't even tell you that he had the decency to ask about the question that is the elephant in the room. He went all the way down to El Salvador. And even CNN's like, well, did you ask the guy if he's innocent or not? And he's like, no, because I knew his answer. No, because it doesn't matter to you. You don't care. He may be a member of MS-13. I'm not going to make judgment, okay? I know what the court decided. I know that a judge would not actually even allow him out on bail because they said he was a member of this notorious gang. But he wants to dispute it. His wife wants to dispute it. His lawyer wants to dispute it. Okay, you're Chris Van Hollen. You're the senator from Maryland. You don't have the decency to ask him whether there's any truth to any of that? No, because you don't care. And that's what's so disgusting and sad. Watch.
President Trump says that some of Abrego Garcia's tattoos signify that he's a member of MS-13. In 2019, police alleged a confidential informant claimed that Abrego Garcia was an active MS-13 member. His wife and his attorney deny that, of course. Can you say with absolute certainty that he is not, nor has he ever been a member of the MS-13 gang? And did you ask him point blank?
Well, Dana, what Donald Trump is trying to do here is change the subject. The subject at hand is that he and his administration are defying a court order to give Abrego Garcia his due process rights. They are trying to litigate on social media what they should be doing in the courts. They need to put up or shut up in the courts. Let me tell you, and I decided to write this down so I could be absolutely accurate as to what Federal District Court Judge Zinnes said about these allegations by the Trump administration. Quote, "No evidence linking Abrego Garcia to MS-13 or any terrorist activity has been presented to the court." That's where to litigate this. It's been litigated in many other places. So I'm not going to get into the details because the whole purpose of our court system is for them to adjudicate these things, not for Donald Trump to go off on social media.
Yeah, you're right. They have not, there hasn't been a court hearing for them to put forward evidence in the first place, which is your whole point. But since you were the one person to have met with him, and since this is a thing, you say on social media, it's what we hear from Donald Trump and Republicans every day, all day long, you didn't ask him?
I didn't ask him that because I know what his answer is.
You get it? He doesn't care. He's like, oh, he's going to say, no, you should have at least asked him. Like, don't you care? Don't you want to know the truth? Caroline Leavitt says this is the truth.
He is an illegal alien, a foreign terrorist, and a criminal MS-13 gang member who violated our country's laws by coming here in the first place. And shame on Senator Chris Van Hollen and the entire Democrat Party, who wasted Easter Sunday going on every television show in the country to advocate for the return of an illegal criminal gang member.
Yeah. All right. So that's where we stand. For some reason, you guys just are so smitten with wokeness that you've forgotten. And by the way, this is exactly why you lost. It's exactly why you lost. This is what people wanted fixed. You're so smitten with wokeness that you're willing to spend all kinds of crazy money that is not even yours. It's taxpayer dollars to go down to El Salvador to fight for this, when I think everybody's looking at you saying, hey, you know, this is not the hill that you want to die on. Caroline Leavitt, I stand corrected, saying I guess border crossings are down 99.9%. I said 96% earlier in the program. Here she is just moments ago.
At the border, President Trump continues to deliver on his promise to make America safe again. The Wall Street Journal captured the Trump effect in a recent article. Border crossings grind to a halt as Trump's tough policies take hold. U.S. Customs and Border Protection recorded its lowest southwest border crossings in history in March, and we're seeing the same successes at our northern border. Here's how the New York Post put it. Northern border sector previously overrun by illegal migrants sees dramatic drop in crossings. We haven't seen anyone since November, end quote. According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, just 54 illegal aliens were apprehended in the Swanton sector of our northern border, which stretches more than 300 miles in March. This is a drastic 95% drop from the more than 1,000 border crossings that were caught in March 2024. This is a main hotspot area that recorded more than 80% of all apprehensions along the northern border during the 2024 fiscal year. And new reporting from the Washington Times fully highlights the difference in Joe Biden's disgraceful approach to the border compared to President Trump's. Under Trump, border catch and release has dropped 99.99% from worst Biden month. You can't get much better than that. This statistic in particular is astounding. Border Patrol agents caught and immediately released 189,604 illegal aliens into the United States in December 2023 at the height of the Biden border crisis. But under President Trump, Border Patrol agents caught and released only 20 illegal aliens into the U.S. in the month of February. Thanks to President Trump, operational control of the border is becoming a reality, and the administration's historic enforcement measures are yielding huge results. Illegal aliens are finally getting the blunt message. If you cross the border illegally, you will be swiftly deported and never return to the United States of America. Efforts to arrest the criminal illegal alien invaders are continuing to ramp up. ICE Chicago arrested a Mexican national convicted of predatory sexual assault of a child in Cook County, Illinois. This week, ICE Denver arrested a Mexican national convicted of sexual assault of a child in Houston County, Texas. ICE Miami arrested a Nicaraguan convicted of aggravated battery in Hillsborough County, Florida. ICE Houston arrested a Salvadorian national convicted of attempted sexual assault of a child and escape in Dallas County, Texas. And ICE Chicago arrested a Mexican national convicted of aggravated sexual abuse of a minor in Illinois. Despite the Democrats' insane objections, President Trump will continue to embolden law enforcement officers to arrest dangerous legal alien criminals and keep our communities safe.
That's a big deal, right? So forgive me, it was catch and release. I think we're still at like 90% decline in the actual border, 96% decline in the actual border crossings. But when you have a catch and release and you were just releasing them, right? And that's down 99.9%. It shows you that ICE is now able to do its job. And by doing its job, it's able to help keep us safe, which is exactly what people wanted, which is why the polling shows that the Democrats are just on the wrong side of the issue.